Beneath the glittering facade of cinema's most celebrated age lurked darkness vast enough to consume entire family lines. Behind each radiant smile on the red carpet stood a frightened child behind closed doors. For every triumphant acceptance speech, there echoed a broken voice whispering through the darkness. "What made me insufficient? Why did you inform her about my dismissal from school? Because that's what happened, you were dismissed." That's completely false. 1. Joan Crawford. When maternal love became theater of cruelty. During the 1940s, Joan Crawford represented the pinnacle of Hollywood elegance. Flawless, composed, ruthlessly ambitious. Yet within her luxurious Los Angeles estate, her daughter Christina inhabited an entirely different reality. There were no gentle evenings, no tender moments, only regulations, dread, and fury that could explode over something as trivial as improper clothing storage. Christina's memoir described her upbringing as an extended performance in anguish. Crawford, consumed by her need for dominance and public perception, required complete submission. Once the lights dimmed and audiences departed, she transformed into something monstrous, cleaning surfaces in evening gowns, disciplining her offspring for insignificant infractions, weaponizing motherhood as an outlet for her inner turmoil. The 1978 release of Mommy Dearest devastated viewers not merely for its savage depictions, but for its revelation. Hollywood's most celebrated maternal figure had terrorized her own child. Crawford rejected all accusations. She departed this world with her public reputation preserved, while her children bore the authentic story's weight. 2. Bing Crosby, the crooner's iron fist. The world knew Bing Crosby as December's voice itself. Comforting, gentle, eternal, his melodies brought solace to countless souls through conflict and economic collapse. Yet within his residence, his sons remembered rigid enforcement and emotional barrenness. Gary Crosby, his firstborn, exposed the reality. Behind that pleasant exterior lived someone who employed leather straps and violence to command obedience. During conversations, Gary characterized him as a dictator possessing a frozen heart. Crosby insisted on excellence, superior academic performance, impeccable behavior, and emotional suppression. He instructed his boys that displaying feelings signified weakness. Within such brutality's shadow, 2 of Bing's sons ultimately ended their own existences. The entertainer who delivered happiness to masses left devastation within his family circle, evidence that celebrity cannot instill compassion. 3. Henry Fonda, the unbridgeable distance. Henry Fonda's countenance embodied the principled American champion, dignified, composed, moral. Yet those intimately familiar with him, particularly his offspring Jane and Peter, describe something entirely different, someone fundamentally incapable of tenderness. Jane Fonda revealed, "My father could discourse endlessly about governance or culture, but never once inquired about my emotional state. Throughout childhood, she yearned for his validation, excelling in hopes of reaching his heart, but he never permitted entry. Their connection only warmed near life's conclusion, when advancing years finally dissolved his protective barriers. Yet for countless years, his remoteness inflicted injuries no recognition could mend. Fonda's devastation wasn't violence, it was vacancy, an emotional glacier that excluded his children from his existence. 4. Ethel Gumm, monetizing dreams, destroying souls. Before Judy Garland achieved legendary status, she was simply young Frances Gumm, a girl possessing remarkable vocal talent and a mother perceiving financial opportunity. Ethel Gumm embodied the quintessential stage parent, forcing Judy to perform despite exhaustion, illness, or tearful protests for respite. She kept her daughter conscious with stimulants, then administered sedatives, a destructive pattern that would devastate Judy's well-being and steal her youth. At merely 13, Judy already consumed amphetamines, provided by studios with maternal approval. Ethel perceived not a child, but a commercial asset. Years afterward, Garland stated bitterly, "My mother's affection existed only during my performances. It remains among entertainment history's most chilling admissions. Fame's cost, measured in sleepless darkness and obliterated innocence." 5. Ryan O'Neal. When charisma conceals cruelty, throughout the 1970s, Ryan O'Neal epitomized masculine appeal. Attractive, magnetic, universally admired. Yet his domestic sphere resembled a war zone. His daughter Tatum won an Academy Award at age 10 for Paper Moon, performing alongside him. Off-screen, however, he treated her not as offspring, but as competition. He ridiculed her, envied her recognition, leaving her feeling rejected and diminished. Tatum subsequently characterized him as someone fundamentally incapable of genuine affection. They attempted reconciliation during later life, but decades of accumulated anguish separated them, a testament that charm and brutality can inhabit the same smile. 6. Mildred Turner. Constructing and demolishing a star. Before Lana Turner became the Sweater Girl, she was merely an Idaho teenager with a mother named Mildred, who viewed celebrity as deliverance. Mildred was a solitary mother during America's economic catastrophe, surviving on aspirations and determination. When Lana's beauty attracted notice, her mother recognized escape not for Lana alone, but for both. She relocated her daughter westward and commenced shaping her into merchandise. At 16, Lana attended gatherings inappropriate for her age. Her mother observed nearby, satisfied, yet blind to peril. Subsequently, Lana acknowledged she never truly possessed childhood, only a profession. Her mother's ambition commodified her before self-awareness emerged. When controversies later devastated Lana's existence, romantic entanglements, heartache, calamity, she whispered quietly, "I never discovered authentic love's appearance." 7. Tippi Hedren. Directing daughter's destruction. Tippi Hedren embodied glacial beauty, Hitchcock's chosen muse, the platinum-haired vision in The Birds. Yet behind that impeccable exterior lived someone attempting to experience success through her frustrated career, and she transferred that bitterness to daughter Melanie Griffith. Tippi desired Melanie's achievement under her supervision. She determined her daughter would fulfill the aspirations she lost. When Melanie resisted, tensions became poisonous. At only 14, Melanie already navigated Hollywood's perilous adult landscape. Her mother even permitted cohabitation with mature actors, including Don Johnson, a decision that later horrified observers. Though Tippi subsequently claimed protective intentions, outcomes proved opposite. Melanie matured prematurely, comprehending affection through disorder rather than devotion. Celebrity again devoured familial bonds, a recurring catastrophe of mothers pursuing salvation through offspring. 8. Anthony Perkins. Inheriting emptiness publicly. Anthony Perkins remains eternally Norman Bates. Isolated, suppressed, fractured, yet, intimates understood, he wasn't merely portraying a character, he embodied one. Perkins' father, Osgood Perkins, performed on Broadway before dying when Anthony reached 5. Even alive, Osgood remained emotionally absent, someone treating his son as burden rather than blessing. Anthony matured, surrounded by silence and separation. That emptiness sculpted him into the withdrawn, anxious individual Hollywood later exploited. Upon becoming a father himself, he repeated patterns, secretive, fearful, emotionally unreachable. His sons claimed barely knowing him despite his physical presence. Anthony Perkins' tragedy represents inheritance's tragedy, when neglect becomes heritage and cycles persist uninterrupted. 9. Rose Hovick. The real-life monster behind Mama Rose. Before Broadway immortalized her as infamous Mama Rose, Rose Hovick existed as actual woman, and terrifying one. Mother to vaudeville performers June Havoc and Gypsy Rose Lee, Rose existed vicariously through daughters, driving them relentlessly through endless rehearsals and sleepless nights. She screamed, manipulated, schemed desperate to sample success she never personally earned. Gypsy Rose Lee later documented her mother once brandishing firearms at competing performers, threatening her daughter's advancement. The daughters invoked "Mama Dearest." Long before Christina Crawford popularized the phrase, Rose's fixation destroyed her family. Both daughters escaped her grasp, yet neither completely recovered. Ultimately, Broadway transformed her madness into mythology, and Mama Rose became the dodgy, archetypal stage mother from nightmares. 10. Mickey Rooney, the eternal showman who never came home. Mickey Rooney existed perpetually before cameras. A prodigious child, national icon, perpetual entertainer. Yet his children remember someone who never returned home. Rooney fathered 9 children through 8 marriages. Between filming commitments, touring, and controversies, family received no priority. His daughter Kelly stated, "My father cherished the public, but not us." Behind his comedic vitality lay desperate attention-seeking, always superseding family. He departed leaving celebrity, wealth, and hollowness, demonstrating again that achievement and love rarely coexist peacefully. 11. Charlie Chaplin, the genius who ruled like royalty. Globally, Charlie Chaplin represented artistic brilliance, the little tramp making audiences laugh through tears. At home, laughter ceased. Chaplin's perfectionism didn't conclude on set. He imported it domestically, demanding obedience, silence, and worship from children. His eldest son, Charles Jr., described their mansion as residing with a monarch, not a father. He controlled everything: reading material, speech patterns, social interactions. His temperament, when challenged, could paralyze atmospheres. Some children adored him, others feared him. All bore the burden of being raised by someone too monumental to love them simply. In one interview, his son quietly admitted, "He belonged to humanity, not us." That sentence captures Chaplin's domestic tragedy, a location where cinema's greatest comedian couldn't elicit his children's smiles. 12. Errol Flynn, the adventurer who abandoned his own. Errol Flynn embodied every 1940 filmgoer's fantasy: dashing adventurer, laughing rebel. Yet beneath that magnetism lurked cruelty disguised as wit. His daughter Deirdre described him as aloof and sarcastic, someone deriving pleasure from belittling others, including offspring. He mocked their appearances, weights, intelligence. If they wept, he laughed. His son, Sean Flynn, pursued his father's path as actor and adventurer, but disappeared in Cambodia, covering Vietnam's conflict. Errol never witnessed it, yet his emotional neglect's legacy lingered like malediction. Flynn's arrogance earned him millions of admirers, but rendered him unreachable as parent. He could perform sword fights cinematically, but in reality, he fled intimacy faster than anyone could pursue. 13. Loretta Young and Clark Gable, the silence that stole identity. This narrative ranks among Hollywood's darkest, not through violence, but through silence. In 1935, during the Call of the Wild filming, Loretta Young conceived by co-star Clark Gable. Both were married to others. Such scandal could demolish careers, so studios and Loretta's family conspired, concealing the pregnancy. She vanished for months, subsequently adopted her own infant, raising daughter Judy Lewis, as if she weren't her biological child. Judy matured, sensing deception. Her father's distinctive chin, her mother's distance, the unspoken truth pervading every photograph. She didn't discover her true parentage until adulthood. "My entire existence," Judy once stated, "I was the secret that shouldn't have existed." That's Hollywood's family treatment, transforming a girl's birth into erasable scandal. 14. Marvin Gaye Sr. When faith became fatal. Marvin Gaye's voice could mend spirits, yet the father who bestowed his name destroyed him. Marvin Gaye Sr. was a minister. Strict, furious, control-obsessed. He governed his household with terror and violence, blending religion with rage. Marvin Jr. matured, terrified, constantly beaten and degraded. His father despised his achievements, denouncing his music as sinful. In 1984, during heated confrontation, Marvin Gaye Sr. fatally shot his son one day before Marvin's 45th birthday. The man, preaching divine love, murdered his child. When questioned why, he responded, "He was asking for it." That moment became music history's darkest, final, horrifying confirmation that some fathers never learn compassion. 15. Joe Jackson, transforming children into commodities. Globally, Joe Jackson fathered the Jackson Five, the man who discovered Michael. For his children, he represented the reason they feared returning home. He trained sons militarily, awakening them nightly for rehearsals until collapse. Missed notes meant beatings. Wrong movements brought insults. Michael recalled his father standing over him with belts while singing. Joe informed media he simply instilled discipline. Yet discipline without affection becomes abuse. Even when his children became global phenomena, they trembled at his calls. Michael spent adulthood attempting forgiveness. Yet his music, his isolation, his endless childhood pursuit communicated louder than words. Joe Jackson's ambition created legends, but obliterated every touched soul's tranquility. 16. Judy Garland. When victims become their tormentors. Judy Garland vowed never resembling her mother, Ethel Gumm, the woman forcing performances, administering stimulants for wakefulness and sedatives for sleep. Yet suffering echoes generationally. When Judy mothered Liza Minnelli, Lorna, and Joey Luft, she loved deeply but was simultaneously drowning. Haunted by addictions, crushed by studio demands, desperate for affection, she became unreliable, fragile, sometimes frightening. Liza adored her, yet feared her temperaments. When elevated, it was paradise, Liza explained. When depressed, the entire household darkened. Judy wasn't deliberately cruel. She was shattered by systems that once destroyed her childhood. Her narrative reminds us Hollywood tragedy doesn't always originate from monsters. Sometimes it emerges from people who were victims first. 17. Sean Connery. The Fortress. Behind 00. 7 Million's new Sean. Connery as masculinity perfected. Confident, charming, indestructible. To his son Jason, he was an impenetrable fortress. Connery's fame consumed him. He demanded perfection and distance, believing discipline equaled affection. When Jason attempted following paternal footsteps, Sean dismissed him harshly, cautioning that the world owes nobody success. Their relationship fractured for decades. Jason once stated, "My father taught strength, not warmth." During later years, Connery softened, but by then, the father-son chasm had become permanent. Two proud men, both too stubborn to admit, "I miss you." Even heroes, apparently, can fail those viewing them as deities. 18. Lucille Ball. Comedy's queen and perfection's tyrant. Lucille Ball constructed her empire on laughter, earning global adoration. Yet, behind studio entrances, she administered her household like a production set, every line rehearsed, every gesture evaluated. Her daughter Lucy Arnaz once characterized her as perfectionist first, mother second. Lucille demanded flawlessness shows, image, family, mistakes triggered fury. Her children matured, treading carefully, terrified of disappointing the woman making America laugh. Lucille rarely struck or shouted. She simply withdrew affection, and that wounded more profoundly than anger. It's silent cruelty, the kind arising from valuing achievement over tenderness. Her comedic legacy endures eternally, yet her children remember someone forgetting to remove the mask, even domestically. 19. Peter Sellers. Brilliance without boundaries. Peter Sellers could make anyone laugh except those he loved. His genius accompanied paranoia, insecurity, and volatile temperamental shifts. He perceived relationships as performances, not partnerships. His daughter, Victoria, recalled his instantaneous transformations, accusing her of betrayal, then tearfully apologizing moments later. He craved worship, and when denied, he punished those nearest him. During final years, Sellers attempted reconciliation, but his body failed before his mind could. His children have spent decades attempting to separate man from mythology, nearly impossible, when love and anguish originate from the same source. Peter Sellers demonstrates how brilliance without empathy transforms genius into cruelty. 20. Modern fame. When cameras replace care. We wish believing Hollywood has evolved, that contemporary stars with their therapy and consciousness would never replicate past errors. Yet, examined tabloids and familiar patterns emerge. Parents pursuing fame through children, exploiting them on social platforms, converting every milestone into content. From reality television families to influencer dynasties, the stage merely migrated online. The identical hunger for attention still devours what matters most: innocence, safety, love. A child's tears don't trend as effectively as smiles, so cycles continue. Conclusion. Ultimately, Hollywood's brilliance fades, but its wounds persist. Fame constructed their reputations, yet love was the cost. And for numerous star offspring, the spotlight never warmed, it only scorched.